Allied troops have not yet arrived in Kuwait City, but are blocking escape routes to make sure that Iraqi troops do not get away. Allied forces have now captured more than 30,000 POWs, and 2 Connecticut soldiers in the Gulf have died in non-combat incidents. And now the details. The Kuwaiti Information Ministry says the capital of Kuwait City is free of Iraqi troops, but U.S. military officials have not confirmed that as of yet. Reports from Kuwait City say that the Iraqis have caused severe damage, cutting off electricity and water and phone service. Meanwhile, Allied troops are also moving into Iraq, taking on Iraq's Republican Guard. Military commanders say that they are not putting up any more of a fight than any other Iraqi troops. Allied forces have now taken more than 30,000 Iraqi prisoners. Iraq had more than 500,000 troops in Kuwait when the war started. The U.S. military says about 200,000 of those men are now out of action. And 2 more Connecticut servicemen have died in Operation Desert Storm. 20-year-old Todd Rich of Danbury died near the Kuwaiti border last Thursday. His truck rolled over while trying to avoid another vehicle. And 21-year-old Stephen Budzian of Waterbury died of a heart attack last Friday. He was stationed on board the USS Saratoga.
One Connecticut psychiatrist says that the video that we've been seeing of Iraqi soldiers surrendering is making this war more real for some of us.
Now, the close-ups of hungry soldiers and rows of prisoners certainly reminds us of the human impact that this war is having.
Action News medical reporter Merle Purvis talked with a psychiatrist about the trauma of watching this war wind down.
Absolutely. According to Dr. Robert Ostroff, he says that what we see when we watch the Iraqi soldiers surrendering is what thousands of our Vietnam or World War II veterans lived with. Not surrendering, but the unraveling of their emotional stability due to the sights and sounds of war. These are sights that may also affect our own psyche.
Iraqi soldiers surrendering, sometimes pathetically, to the Allied troops. Many are obviously battle-worn. They're hungry and needing medical attention. Dr. Robert Ostroff, an expert on the psychological effects of war, says the Iraqi POWs are also mentally disabled following 30 days of constant bombings.
I'm sure that the majority of people that we're seeing who've been exposed to basically combat conditions for weeks on end are all, or the vast majority, are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And one of the symptoms is a psychological numbing or lack of emotional responsiveness.
Now, I watched the pictures of Iraqi soldiers surrendering. They were kissing the enemy. They were in their underwear. I felt sorry for them, but I felt guilt at feeling sorry for them at the same time.
It's hard not to be sympathetic when you see another human being suffering. I think Bush has made that clear from the beginning, and there wasn't the sense that we were at war with the Iraqis. We were at war with Saddam Hussein.
Dr. Ostroff says Vietnam veterans like these at the West Haven VA Medical Center probably understand better than anyone the emotional trip the Iraqi soldier now faces. Isolation, imprisonment, and facing defeat.
And it's hard to imagine that Vietnam veterans aren't going to be reminded of the trauma of combat by watching news continuously.
Dr. Ostroff goes on to say that, and even suggests that perhaps some veterans consider not watching hours of war wind down, if you will. He worries the sights will bring on memories that are just too powerful for some of the veterans to handle.
So that the pictures that we're actually seeing on TV, it may trigger something in some veterans.
Absolutely. Imagine what it does to us. I mean, some of us are torn. We were talking in the newsroom. We were torn with, you know, should we feel sorry for these guys, or should we just hang in there because some of our guys are dead? He says that you can take that and triple it for a veteran who's been there.
I bet. Yeah. Okay, Merle, thanks very much.
And this may seem ironic at this time, but some disabled veterans may be losing some federal benefits. If they are declared mentally incompetent and have assets of over $25,000, they may lose federal benefits unless they first spend a large portion of their savings. That could include soldiers who are now in the Persian Gulf, where doctors have predicted a high number of psychiatric cases as a result of combat. Government officials say that the restrictions could save about $125 million a year. The U.S. military is prepared to handle medical problems that female troops may encounter in the Gulf. Women make up now about 6% of the U.S. forces, and even though they're not involved in direct combat, their jobs do put them at risk.
Initially, we raised the issue of whether just the remoteness, the hostile environment might present some particular problems to our female soldiers, primarily because of the lack of adequate facilities for personal hygiene, or the added stress of that environment might create some menstrual irregularities.
So far, about 70 women have been evacuated for problems common to women, such as pelvic and abdominal pain, ovarian cysts, even pregnancy.
Well, a Connecticut hospital is sending its own type of greetings to the U.S. soldiers in the Persian Gulf. As Action News reporter Keith Kuntz tells us, it's a very lengthy message.
From one end to the other, this scroll stretches more than 100 feet.
All the way down?
There are more than 550 greetings written here from workers at Griffin Hospital to U.S. soldiers in the Persian Gulf. It all began 2 weeks ago in the cardiovascular unit.
We wanted to get it out. We want to get these messages to them because they are important messages coming from the hearts of a lot of people.
Since then, it seems everyone has something to say or a feeling to share. These photographs from nearly every hospital department will be sent along with the scroll. This is normally a high-pressured life-and-death working environment. The scroll has helped ease some of the tension around here.
We made it a great project, and it was lots of fun taking the pictures, and it was lots of fun seeing what the people had to say.
Jordan Cohen works in the housekeeping department. His message is to his brother Raymond, a brother he hasn't seen in years and misses dearly.
Just that when he gets home safe and sound, when everybody gets home safe and sound, we're all going to have a big, big celebration and have everybody come home.
This unique greeting will be sent to a U.S. soldier with ties to the hospital or the Naugatuck Valley. In Derby, Keith Kuntz, Action News 8.
Now, more than half of Griffin's staff has already signed this scroll. The hospital hopes to get it in the mail by the end of this week.
Still to come on Action News at 5:30, another plan to help reduce the state's budget deficit.
And Christian Brando returns to court.
And a flashback to the 60s. Don't go away.
Some people don't know it, but they're paying too much in taxes. Take these two, identical in many ways. Similar homes, similar income, similar investments. But one could be paying 28% more tax on his savings and investment income. That's over $200 on every $800 earned. The other called Fidelity Investments toll-free and found out how to invest tax-free in this free fact kit on Fidelity tax-free funds. It shows you how to earn income that's 100% free from federal income taxes. Free from Connecticut dividends and interest income taxes, too. That means double tax-free. And there's no sales charge, which means all your money is working for you. So call for your free fact kit on Fidelity Investments tax-free funds. Call right now and you'll also get this bonus booklet, Understanding Tax-Free Investing. And Fidelity also offers a tax-free money market fund designed for Connecticut residents.
Hello, Fidelity.
Keep more of what you earn. Call 1-800-843-5400 today and let Fidelity show you how.
So I'm talking to her father, right? And he goes,
"So, you're interested in my daughter?"
And I'm like, yeah. I mean, yeah.
You have any money?
I got a couple of bucks.
How will you eat on a couple of bucks?
We'll eat at Roy's.
Who's Roy?
Roy Rogers. You buy one bacon cheeseburger, you get one for 50 cents.
Surely you don't plan to eat bacon cheeseburgers for the rest of your lives.
I said, relax. It's a limited time offer.
Dust off your goofy hats. It's time once again for the Walt Disney World Goofy Game. Hi, I'm Skip Church. You could join WWF superstar Hercules, former Major League Baseball star Duke Sims, and me as part of the Channel 8 Goofy Games team at Walt Disney World, March 16th through the 20th. We'll fly Delta, the official airline of Walt Disney World, and stay at Disney's new Yacht and Beach Club Resort. To enter, send your name, address, and phone number to WTNH, Box 1859, New Haven. We'll announce the winner on Action News at 5:30, Tuesday, March 5th. See you at the games.
Now an update on some of the other developments in the Persian Gulf War. Saddam Hussein's announcement of withdrawal sent the people of Iraq into spontaneous celebrations. Crowds that had gathered around radios in Baghdad began to dance. Some fired off weapons as they heard reports that the war would be ending.
Well, that may be a little premature from President Bush's point of view. He says that the war is far from over and that the ground assault will continue with, quote, undiminished intensity. The president also says that Iraq is in full retreat.
No late word on today's session of the UN Security Council, but following an overnight session in New York, the Soviet Union urged the UN to call an immediate ceasefire, saying that Iraq's pullout from Kuwait satisfies all interested parties in the war. However, the Iraqi ambassador to the UN indicated that Iraq rejects 11 of the 12 UN resolutions concerning the invasion of Kuwait.
And in other news this evening, if you go out to buy a lottery ticket for tonight's jackpot, you may find the person behind the counter is a little bit upset. Upset because Governor Lowell Weicker wants them to take a big pay cut. As Action News reporter Mark Davis explains, it's part of the governor's plan to bail out the state, but shopkeepers say that it could help to break them.
There are more than 3,000 lottery agents around the state cranking up the sales of millions of dollars a year to help pay the state's bills. In exchange for the space for the lottery machines and the people to run them, store owners are paid 5%, 5 pennies on each dollar ticket. But Governor Weicker wants to lower that fee to 4%, in effect taking away 1 penny per dollar. And the lottery agents, mostly small store owners, are reacting.
There's lots of ways to improve the game, lots of ways to make more income, and if the state lottery agents were given the tools to raise the revenue, I think they could raise it.
Sports betting is mentioned as a way for the state to make large amounts of revenue. It's illegal now, but the state could make it legal and rake in the dough. The lottery machines could be easily adapted to the chore. Weicker has also said he wants to help business, and he does want to cut business taxes. But for the small business owner that sells lottery tickets, the Weicker penny cutback could be very bad for business.
With the economy being down, there are a lot of little businesses out there that the lottery is a big percent of their actual net profit.
For some store owners, it could mean a salary for an employee. Weicker says he empathizes, but
that anybody that doesn't want to sell the tickets, please give us back the franchise. Fine.
Many of us have been very loyal agents since the inception of lottery, and I don't feel that that is exactly saying thank you for helping us supply money to the state.
What Weicker is actually asking is that the lottery agents take a 20% pay cut. The lottery agents say there are plenty more ways to make money for the state with the lottery machines. Why take our pennies away? Mark Davis, Action News 8, Hartford.
Well, Governor Weicker said today that all forms of gambling are on the table for consideration to help raise money for the state budget, even casino gambling, which was the subject of a legislative hearing this afternoon.
And on the subject of gambling, after 2 years of declining business, the Plainfield dog track may face some competition. A legislative proposal could allow Bridgeport to convert its highlight fronton to a dog track. A spokesman for the Plainfield track says that many of their customers come from New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. If a dog track were to open in Bridgeport, some customers might choose the shorter drive.
Well, it is time now to check in with Nancy Aborn, and she is going to have a look at our weather tonight.
Bit of winter we had today, Nancy. Do we have more of that on tap?
Yes, we do. Very dreary overall this week. Not a postcard to send home. I'm certainly not going to send a postcard of this weather home anyway. I know my parents are probably thinking about spring-like weather, just like we had last week, temperatures like that. But they're not going to be with us this week. This week, old man winter is digging in. Temperatures in the 30s. We're looking for icy road conditions tonight. Already, we've had up to 3 to 5 inches of snow accumulating in western Connecticut, while to the north and east at our Hartford Bureau, Action News reporter Ellen Abrams reporting nothing in Hartford. So let's take a look at our current conditions and we'll see what's coming up for the midweek weather picture. Right now at our Channel 8 studio, we have a temperature of 33 degrees, the dew point's 30, the relative humidity 89%. The barometric pressure is steady and the winds are out of the north at 8. Take a look at the weather log for tomorrow. Sunrise 6:30 a.m., sunset 5:41 p.m. And normal temperatures are creeping up. Normal daytime highs nearly 40 degrees now. Let's take a look at the satellite. Storm system, a low pressure system moving off the mid-Atlantic coast. The low will continue to track to the north and east up toward Nova Scotia. In the meantime, there's a lot of instability behind that because of the Arctic cold air filtering in behind this frontal system. So we'll look for cloudy conditions tonight. Let's take a look at the forecast. It goes like this: cloudy with light snow, icy roads, and as far as snowfall accumulation, it will stick in the western areas of Connecticut and the Northwest Hills. Overnight low temperatures 20 to 25 with easterly winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Tomorrow, light snow ending, then slowly clearing skies. We'll look for some breaks of sunshine in the afternoon. High temperatures in the mid-30s, westerly winds 10 to 20 miles an hour, and the outlook for Thursday, passing clouds and a shower possible, and temperatures just about normal for this time of year. Harry and Diane, daytime high temperatures 35 to 40 degrees.
All right, thank you, Nancy.
Thanks,
You're
Nancy.
welcome. Well, when we come back with Action News at 5:30, a little trip back in time.
That's right, we're going to be talking to the star of the Heidi Chronicles, so stay with us.
Ay caramba, it's him. They're here in Ice-Capade's Golden Anniversary Edition. A radical riot of fun with Bart, Homer, and the entire family on ice for the first time. Plus Barbie, back by popular demand. It's for kids.
This is an ABC News special report. Reporting from our world headquarters in New York, Peter Jennings.
Good afternoon. Just to bring you up to date on some of the developments in the Gulf War, but most importantly to tell you that ABC's Forrest Sawyer has arrived in Kuwait City after a very long journey across the battlefield. He is standing by now live in the very center of the city. Forrest, tell us as much as you can in a couple of minutes.
Well, Peter, first I can tell you that this city is virtually liberated. Overnight, all the Iraqi soldiers here apparently packed themselves up in Kuwaiti vehicles and headed north or west. The Kuwaitis here are not certain. There are, however, a few Iraqi soldiers who are armed, and I am told by members of the Kuwaiti resistance are still willing to fight. However, as they put it, before the Iraqis were the policemen, the resistance members were the thieves. Now it is reversed. As a matter of fact, I'm standing in a secure location, which is the roof of a resistance member's house. I'm on a night scope so that we don't put too much light up right now.
If we pan to your left, can we see the Kuwait skyline?
I don't know. Why don't you pan to the left and see?
Or your right, your choice.
By that night scope. I am also told by the Kuwaiti resistance, Peter, that about 1,000 Kuwaitis have been taken by the Iraqis over this past week, and they have disappeared. In addition, I can tell you that U.S. Special Forces members arrived at the U.S. Embassy and have moved to the Saudi Arabian Embassy, where they have joined a Special Forces team of Saudi Arabia. Neither team has entered their embassy under directions from the highest military sources here. That is because they want it to be a more ceremonial matter. Both embassies have flags flying over them. I can't tell whether they are still the Saudi and American flag or not.
Very nice to have you there, Forrest. We'll talk to you a little later on ABC's World News tonight. It looks extremely eerie. Completely empty, the city at the moment, in terms of no one on the streets?
It is stunningly empty. We passed all of these burned out vehicles, shops that have been destroyed. The city has been trashed in a terrible way.
And have you heard any gunfire tonight at all?
Heard some small arms fire. I can also tell you that that is Kuwaiti resistance fire being fired in celebration. There has been no resistance at all by Iraqi soldiers.
Forrest Sawyer, thanks very much. Look forward to seeing you on World News tonight. That's the report from Kuwait City itself. Overall, in the war effort today, it has been a very successful day as far as U.S. forces are concerned. Most all units have reached their objectives. The casualty figures are just precisely the same as they were yesterday. 4 killed and not very many wounded. I'm Peter Jennings in New York.
This has been an ABC News special report on the Gulf War.
Well, we will have more on the Gulf developments. This is a kind of a dramatic gear shifting that we're going to be doing right now. But joining me on Action News is 5:30 is Stephanie Dunham. Stephanie plays the lead role. She is the star of the Heidi Chronicles, which is opening tonight at the Schubert Theater, and we're very glad to have you with us. You may know Stephanie from a part that she played on Dynasty, correct? Mm-hmm. That was a couple of years ago. And now you're on stage doing this huge production that's 2.5 hours, and we were just talking about what a demanding role this is, because the Heidi Chronicles stars you. You're it.
It's a huge part. As I said, I have a dozen costume changes. I'm in every scene. I run from one scene to the next, and everybody's work is cut out for them in the show. There are some people who play 3 and 4 roles, and there are 4 of us who play the same part throughout a 25-year span, from our youth in high school through our adulthood in the 80s, and it's quite a bit of work for everyone involved.
Well, I got a little ahead of ourselves, and I apologize. Can you explain a little bit what the Heidi Chronicles is all about? Who's it about, and what does it involve?
The Heidi Chronicles is a story of a generation. People who were in high school in the 60s and graduating college in the 70s and involved in the peace movement, the women's movement, the gay rights movement, and through their adulthood in the 80s. It's particularly through one woman's point of view, Heidi, and her closest friends. But I hesitate to say that it's a women's play, because I think that many men that I know have recognized themselves in the characters in the play as well. It's a very funny play. The comedy sometimes fools people into thinking that there's not more substance there. However, most people have been very moved by it as well.
So when the play starts out, Heidi is how old?
High school.
Oh, she's in high school, and she goes 30 years, so she gets up to being 30 years old? Or?
Oh, no, 25 years, so about 40, 42.
She gets 40 or 42. Now, how is it playing an older woman?
Well, it's not really something that we have to worry about too much. The way the play is written, the maturity of the individuals involved evolves in the scenes, so it's not something I have to worry about playing.
Okay, what was the most, what was the era that you think hit home for you the most?
Well, the 70s and 80s more. I'm 31, so the 60s are not something that I really remember. But you know, I have a lot of friends who are that age, and I certainly understand the dilemmas of the characters involved. I think that this question that comes up for Heidi in the play is, can you be an independent career woman pursuing your goals and have romance?
Okay, well, we will see if that happens for you. Stephanie Dunham, we thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Tonight. The Heidi Chronicles opening tonight at the Schubert. Tickets still available. Tickets still available. Diane?
Okay, and it runs through March 3rd. Actually, this is a double opening night at the Schubert. The Heidi Chronicles and the Schubert Boutique. Action News reporter Skip Church went shopping there this afternoon.
There's no business like show business like no business I know.
The curtain may not go up for this opening night, but plenty of shirts will be unfolded and knickknacks noticed. This is the new Schubert Boutique adjacent to the theater, where the theater fan will be able to find just about anything.
Show logo clothing that says Phantom of the Opera or Cats, posters, which you can see here, our own Schubert posters, the Hirschfeld posters, shows that come in like Cats or Phantom of the Opera or Les Mis, they'll all be sold here.
As well as cups with logos from your favorite shows, or compact discs, or books. I became attached to this mask from Phantom of the Opera. Some of the merchandise will change as the shows change.
The Madame Butterfly comes in, for example. We'll have a few different recordings of Madame Butterfly, the video cassette, background information on the story of Madame Butterfly, so that if a person really is interested in doing a little more exploration, a little more investigation on what we're doing here, that they'll have that at their disposal.
There's also a kids' corner. There are coloring books and tiny t-shirts as well as other items. You might also want to pick up the full line of musically inclined frogs. It's a place where the theater fan can pick up the perfect gift. And I can pick up a little extra money. I prefer the term mannequin, not dummy. Skip Church, Action News 8, New Haven.
And we'll be back with Mr. Science in just a minute.
Campbell's presents the 1991 Tour of World Figure Skating Champions and a chance to win a trip for two to San Francisco for the June 12th performance. You'll fly U.S. Air, America's most frequent flyer. Spend 4 nights at award-winning Park 55, luxurious accommodations and world-class service in the heart of the city by the bay.
See the Campbell's display or send a card to WTNH TV, Box 4353, Hamden, Connecticut 06514. See the show at the Hartford Civic Center May 11th.
Nutrisystem. When you're ready to do it right, there's a right way to lose weight.
Anybody can lose it. The real accomplishment is keeping it off.
I feel very proud of myself because it's something that I determined to do, and I stuck to it.
The difference is I have control of my eating habits, so let's get on to the next challenge.
Now that you're ready, there's a right way to lose weight. Nutrisystem.
Now get 25% off Nutrisystem program services. Call 1-800-321-THIN.
Hello?
Hi, honey. I just checked in.
How was the flight?
Bad food, good movie.
I miss you.
I miss you, too.
You feel so alone when you're not here.
Did you, lock all the doors and turn on the ADT system?
Yep.
The last thing a burglar wants to see. ADT helps protect your home and family 24 hours a day, every day of the year by linking your home to an ADT customer service center. Call 1-800-ADT-INFO. For a small monthly fee and one-time installation charge, our SafeWatch system can help protect your home against break-ins, fire, and medical emergencies. Help protect your home. Help protect your peace of mind. Call 1-800-ADT-INFO.
I'll see you at home tomorrow night, then. I love you both.
We love you, too. We'll be here.
ADT, we're home even when you're not.
ADT SafeWatch. Call this number now. Only $395 installation and $19.95 monthly monitoring fee. ADT, we're home even when you're not.
Who's gonna find their special diamond in our showroom? You will, at the American Diamond Exchange Building, New Haven.
It is time now to find out what's coming up on Action News at 6 o'clock tonight.
We go to the Action News Center for a look. Hi, Ann.
Hi, thanks, Harry and Diane. Coming up at the top of the hour, we'll have the latest on the war, plus a story of a Kuwaiti citizen living in Connecticut and his reaction to the liberation of his homeland. Alan Lagarde brings us the story of one military mother concerned about her son serving in Operation Desert Storm. And investigative reporter John Pauley brings us a new list of Connecticut's most wanted tonight. It's all coming up at 6. Harry and Diane.
Okay, and thanks very much. Finally tonight, for his Mr. Science segment, Geoff Fox is waiting in the control room with a bag of potato chips.
Geoff, grocery shopping, isn't that a little bit of a stretch for Mr. Science, and are those on your diet?
No, they're not. Everybody in Master Control has told me I'm not supposed to eat in here, but it's not what's inside the bag I'm worried about tonight. Tonight, it's what's on the bag. You can't pick up an item at the store without seeing one. It's called the Universal Price Code symbol, and it's revolutionizing the way everything from inventory to customer sales are handled. What percentage would you guess comes with a price code now?
Maybe like 90% at least.
Most of the items we see are 12 digits long. The first, a 0 in this case, identifies the type of item. Random weight items get a 2, coupons a 5, and so on. The next 5 show who the manufacturer is, and the last 5 the individual product. These 2 bottles of oil have the same manufacturer. They're just different sizes, so different numbers. It's important that the system be designed to scan from just about any angle, because when your groceries are being checked out, the checker might not even be looking at the item. There's a laser in that scanning unit. It's even easier to see in this handheld model. The laser light moves back and forth, reflecting off the bars and spaces on the symbol. Here's a 9, 8, 7, and 6. Because the scan might happen at almost any angle, and because different UPC symbols are different sizes, the time for the laser to pass over the symbol is calculated, and then the ratio of light to dark. Finally, a large computer matches up the item with the store's current price. Now, there's one thing you should remember as a consumer. When you go to the shelf and you pick something off and it has this price code on it, that just says what the item is. It really doesn't say what the price is. So you have to still be careful and watch what's being rung up on the register. In the future, this will change how stores do business. Already, inventories can be kept on a real-time basis, and computers talking to other computers can take care of ordering and keep shelves stocked. Harry and Diane, these numbers are assigned from a central clearinghouse, believe it or not, in Dayton, Ohio, and there are at this point 75,000 different manufacturers who can assign their own product codes to their individual products. 75,000 here in the United States, 15,000 in Canada. And the potato chips taste just as good with or without the code.
All right, Geoff, thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Geoff.
That does it for us. For Action News at 5:30, I'm Diane Smith.
And I'm Harry Martin. Have a great evening.
Working nights as a 911 operator is like having a direct line into people's worst nightmares. Sometimes I get stress headaches. The pain's like a rope gripping right here. I head straight for Anacin 3.
Anacin 3, maximum strength pain reliever, without aspirin.
I take a couple Anacin 3. It doesn't upset my stomach. And pretty soon I forget I ever had the pain.
Aspirin-free Anacin 3, or original Anacin. Strong pain relief for today's stress headaches.
ShopRite answers that age-old question, so what's on sale?
Is that all? Viva or Scott napkins half price, 49 cents. Save your yellow register tapes for a free ham or turkey. Save $250 worth of tapes for an Armor canned ham, ShopRite frozen turkey, or Empire kosher turkey. Save $200 worth for a 10 to 14 pound ShopRite turkey.
We save you money. ShopRite does it right.
Ay caramba, it's him. They're here in Ice-Capade's Golden Anniversary Edition. A radical riot of fun with Bart, Homer, and the entire family on ice for the first time. Plus Barbie, backed by popular demand. It's for kids, it's for laughs, it's for a limited time only. Ice-Capade's Golden Anniversary Edition.
February 27th through March 3rd. Tickets at the New Haven Coliseum box office or call 1-800-922-2030.
To get rid of her gray, my wife can spend 40 minutes. But I discovered the 5-minute hair coloring.
The revolutionary discovery called Just for Men from the leader in men's hair coloring. Simply apply Just for Men and in 5 minutes shampoo out.
Gray is blended away. The look of my natural color is back in 5 minutes. That was me, and it won't fade or wash out.
My hair takes forever, but you look great in just 5 minutes.
The look of your natural color in just 5 minutes with Just for Men.
Connecticut is watching WTNH 8, New Haven, Hartford.
This is a special edition of Action News. Operation Desert Storm, the Connecticut Watch.
More Iraqi soldiers give up, surrendering by the thousands in Kuwait, as others leave behind a path of destruction while retreating to the north.
Good evening. Topping the news tonight, Saddam Hussein calls it a withdrawal. The Allies say it's an all-out retreat.
Well, whatever it is, Iraqi soldiers are leaving Kuwait tonight, and ABC's Forrest Sawyer, who is in Kuwait City now, reported about 10 minutes ago that the capital is virtually now in Allied control.
But despite the Iraqi retreat, President Bush says Allied forces will not let up on the offensive.
The Pentagon is reporting tonight that the Allies are now battling Iraqi's elite Republican Guard with a 100,000 coalition troop presence in southern Iraq to prevent the Guard from returning to Baghdad.
Captured enemy documents reportedly indicate the Iraqis were ordered to inflict as many casualties as possible in Kuwait and destroy the oil fields.
Meanwhile, thousands of Iraqis continue to give up. Look at these dramatic pictures taken inside Kuwait today. Iraqi soldiers giving up and obviously grateful for the chance to do it. Inside Iraq, the evidence of war. The 82nd Airborne fires heavy artillery.
The news of the Iraqi withdrawal from Kuwait literally hit home for one Connecticut resident.
That's right. He's a Kuwaiti national who escaped his country to come here to live and study in New Haven.
Action News reporter Marguerite Bardone has our story.
This is what Iraqi troops have done to Kuwait. And this is the Kuwait Ismail Shomo remembers. Shomo escaped his native land shortly after the Iraqi invasion, leaving behind his family, a family he hasn't heard from or about since he left. With mixed emotions, Shomo greeted the news that Saddam Hussein pulled his forces out from Kuwait's capital.
It is sad to know that he destroyed everything and commit some kind of atrocity to the innocent people. But at the same time, I'm happy and encouraged that all of this will get to the end and all the Iraqis will withdraw. And I hope they liberate Kuwait as fast as they can.
Despite his encouragement, Shomo has suspicions about Hussein's intentions.
Saddam Hussein, nobody can trust him. I thought this will last 1 month and they will withdraw without fighting. But this man is really, he's mad and strange.
Shomo says he has no doubt the coalition forces will defeat Iraq and that eventually he will return to a liberated Kuwait. Marguerite Bardone, Action News 8, New Haven.
Some of the soldiers helping to liberate Kuwait are, of course, right from our area.
We continue our coverage of the Connecticut Watch with Action News reporter Alan Lagarde. He's in the news center with more on a family feeling the fight. Alan.
Ann, this isn't your average story about a mother whose son has gone off to war. In this case, the son is twice the age of most of the men in his unit. Edna Toney knows something about family. These are all nieces and nephews. But Mrs. Toney has only one child, a son named Cleveland. This is his high school graduation picture, taken more than 30 years ago.
No greater child could be born than that child.
Mrs. Toney is close to her son in many ways. His apartment is right below hers, but his is empty right now. The 51-year-old man she calls her baby is at war. She misses his care and comfort.
Anything from the hand, if I want him to do it or he feel like I need it done.
So how much do you miss him?
Plenty.
He didn't really want to go. You know, even his mommy, his father's dead.
Wes Richardson has been a neighbor for 30 years. Now he talks with Mrs. Toney, runs to the store and picks up the mail. He says Cleveland is his best buddy. Mrs. Toney is his best friend.
All she has to do is walk across the porch or call me on the phone anytime. So she knows it.
She also relies on the Lord. She hopes her prayers will see Cleveland through the horrors of war.
Like that rocket that place was hit yesterday and all them soldiers got killed. My son could have been there.
How much do you worry about him?
Not worry enough, but I don't worry as much as I would worry if I didn't pray hard. I knew how to pray.
Mrs. Toney says she prays constantly, first for her son, but then for all the soldiers. And we do have one other bit of news about Cleveland Toney's unit, the 439th Petroleum Company. Apparently 2 or 3 members of the company were in the building next to the one that was destroyed in yesterday's Scud attack. There was some damage to the building, but it appears that no one was injured there. hits close to home, Alan Ann.
Boy, it sure does. An emotional roller coaster for a lot of families. Thanks, Alan. Well, let's turn now to reaction from Capitol Hill.
That's where Connecticut U.S. Senator Joseph Lieberman is standing by live. Senator, thanks for joining us once again.
Good to be with you, Al.
We have heard that the rules of conduct in war prohibit, or allow rather, the U.S. forces, the Allied forces following the retreating Iraqis to pursue them as though they were hostile. But how far should we pursue them? How far can we pursue them?
Well, I leave that to the generals. As a matter of diplomacy, I think we should pursue them until they clearly get out of Kuwait and until their leader does exactly what President Bush asked him to do, surrender, do what is honorable at this point, acknowledge you've lost, and sign a letter saying you're going to abide by all the UN resolutions. Hard enough to agree with him, trust him even if he signs a letter, but that's the least we can ask.
Senator Lieberman, what is the mood on Capitol Hill tonight? Is there a feeling that it's almost over now?
There is a couple of feelings. One, there's a continuing and really growing sense of outrage and anger at Saddam Hussein because he caused so much suffering. There's a lot of anger and sadness here about the Scud missile that killed those 28 American soldiers yesterday, and growing feeling that he's really committing genocide against the Kuwaiti people. But there's also a tremendous bipartisan feeling of support for the president and the military to go forward. Don't settle for a false peace. Go all the way until we get what we've earned, which is a victory over a despot.
All right, Senator, thank you very much for joining us once again from Washington. Senator Joe Lieberman.
Thank you.
The bright futures of two young Connecticut servicemen are gone tonight. They died this past week serving in Operation Desert Storm. As Action News reporter Kevin Hogan tells us, their friends and family miss them terribly.
He was a great guy, easygoing, lovable. Never seen him get mad.
That's how friends say they'll remember 20-year-old Todd Rich, full of life. Born in Bethel, Rich lost his life last Thursday in a truck accident near the Kuwait border.
Although Todd Rich grew up in Bethel, his family moved away to New Hampshire some 9 years ago. After high school, he joined the National Guard, and he moved back to the area a few years ago.
He got a job at Danbury Sheet Metal. His employer calls his loss a tragic one. Co-worker Mike Tomer tells me he got Rich interested in skydiving.
He went for an observation run. That's where you sit in a plane and you watch people exit. It's pretty exciting, you know, and he was in a hot seat right by the door, and he was all set to go for a skydive when he came back.
Rich was also planning to tie the knot.
When he was coming back, they were getting married. They had the church all planned out. He's a great guy.
An apparent heart condition cut life short last week for Steve Budzian. The 21-year-old Waterbury native died of complications stemming from a heart attack while on board the USS Saratoga. He graduated from Crosby High in 1987.
I tried to persuade him to go to college right after high school, and no, he believed in the military and he wanted to fight for his country.
It's unfortunate, but I'm sure that there's a consolation in the fact that his parents know that he served his country well, and that they should be proud of that.
Others say Budzian was excited about the Navy and his future, a future that will now only live on in memory. Kevin Hogan, Action News 8, Waterbury.
And of course, ABC will have a wrap-up of all today's developments in the Gulf during a special one-hour edition of World News Tonight that begins at 6:30.
There's still much more ahead here on this special edition of Operation Desert Storm, the Connecticut Watch. Up next, we'll be updating the Joe Lomax murder trial in Hartford.
And investigative reporter John Pauley concludes his series on Connecticut's Most Wanted. Stay with us.
Are you confused about what to recycle? Some items required by the new Connecticut law are newspapers, corrugated cardboard, and white office paper. Recycling paper saves money and energy. A ton of reused paper saves 17 trees. If you don't recycle, you could face fines or non-collection of your trash. The future of our Earth is in your hands.
A Connecticut Earth message brought to you by WTNH Channel 8 and McDonald's.
How much would you pay for a McDonald's hamburger?
About $2.
Like $1.25.
McDonald's announces a big change.
Is that right, starting now?
From now on, you can get our juicy original hamburger for just 59 cents.
Wow.
Or a delicious sausage biscuit for breakfast for just 79 cents.
Somebody's pulling my leg.
McDonald's regular hamburger now just 59 cents. McDonald's sausage biscuit now just 79 cents.
Not bad.
Any time of the day, you'll love the change at McDonald's.
Excellent.
Oldsmobile, official car for NCAA championships, calls this time out to tell you about the other game in town. The Oldsmobile Drive to the Final Four Cellathon. Thanks, Billy. Here at your O's dealer, you'll find great deals on every new Oldsmobile, including this Cutlass Supreme, as low as $13,595 after cash back and first-time buyer allowance. V6, air conditioning, AM/FM stereo, all included. $13,595. Billy? Hey, with deals like this, you can't miss.
You're pure, you're natural, you're one of a kind. You're my ivory, baby. You're pure, you're soft, you're just the right touch. You're my ivory, baby.
Baby your skin with Ivory. Ivory's mild, gentle, 99.44% pure.
You make me feel so good. You're my ivory, baby.
Attenzione! Francesco Rinaldi's new Italian regional pasta sauces are richer, thicker, chunkier. Why are they real Italian tasting? Because they're made by Italians.
The jury in the Joe Lomax murder trial in Hartford finished a 5th day of deliberations today. Still no verdict. Lomax is charged with killing newspaper reporter Carol Lazinski in 1987. His 2 previous trials ended with hung juries. Police in New Haven nabbed a suspect who's accused of raping and murdering Marcia Larson at her house on Prince Street last November. The bond for the suspect, who's identified as 29-year-old Carlos Maldonado, has been set at $1 million.
Who tops Connecticut's most wanted list, and what did they do to get there? Investigative reporter John Pauley has the answers in his final report on Connecticut's most wanted.
Bad boys, what you gonna do? Last night, we introduced you to these East Haven bank robbers, this murder suspect who escaped from custody in Bridgeport, and these 2 men wanted in connection with a New Haven drug-related murder.
Tonight, you're about to meet 3 suspects who federal, state, and local lawmen say are the baddest of the bad. In fact, the FBI wants 2 of them so badly, they're willing to pay for them. The price, $150,000 in reward money. But first, the case of a child abductor who authorities worry may strike again.
Wallingford police worked late into the night last November 7th looking for clues as to who abducted an 8-year-old girl as she waited for a school bus that morning. Sergeant Thomas Curran recounts the crime.
He had a gun in his right hand, and he was able to force the victim into the right front of his car and ordered her to lie on the floor and actually covered her over with a blanket.
About 90 minutes later, along this road in Guilford, the kidnapper released his victim unharmed. Police reunited the girl with her family and then released these witness composites of the suspect. The descriptions vary, but police say they're almost positive the abductor was driving a Chrysler product car. And what about the motive?
Certainly no motive. It would be too premature even now.
But the FBI said they are sure of the motive of the crimes by the men who top Connecticut's most wanted list. They want political independence for Puerto Rico. And the FBI says one of the ways they tried to bankroll their terrorist activities was through the $7.2 million Wells Fargo robbery in West Hartford in 1983. The suspects are Filberto Ojeda Rios, shown here under guard in Hartford before he jumped bond last year. The second suspect, Luis Alfredo Colon Osorio, also jumped bail last year. Both men are known to possess automatic weapons and explosives. They are considered armed and extremely dangerous. John Pauley, Action News 8.
And a quick note on the Wells Fargo case. A federal appeals court in New York yesterday ruled in favor of allowing critical tape recordings as evidence. It clears the path for prosecutors to try the remaining 9 defendants.
Well, now we get into the wanted weather department. Everybody wants springtime, but we keep seeing snow.
Me included. When we come back, Geoff Fox is going to try and explain what is going on here.
Consider this, for only $11,499, the 1991 Subaru Loyale station wagon with 4-wheel drive and 5-speed transmission, automatic slightly more, air conditioning, AM/FM stereo, power windows, and power door locks, power steering, dual power mirrors, and driver's side lumbar support. All for $11,499. Yes, you heard it right, $11,499. Car for car, dollar for dollar, America's best buy. See your New England Subaru dealer now.
When your family wants a spread with better buttery taste,
butter.
then Shed Spread Country Crock.
Butter, 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 butter,
Butter.
better.
A lot better buttery taste. Just say
Butter.
Parquet Spread. For better buttery taste, just say Parquet.
Thank you.
It was a disaster. My daughter dropped a whole jar of pickled beets on her coat. Our local cleaner wouldn't touch it, so I gave her my Liquid Tide. It cleaned the coat beautifully. Liquid Tide is fantastic. Sincerely, Mildred Morrow.
Can your liquid get out pickled beets? Liquid Tide did. You'll be surprised how many things Liquid Tide gets out. If it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide.
Would you like one of these?
I think a Tic Tac is clearly better than a Certs.
Oh, get out.
No, really. With only 1.5 calories, Tic Tac freshens your breath just as well as that does.
Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm. Oh. Well, let's see. I'm almost convinced. Oh, right. I am convinced.
Tic Tac.
I'm gone. I'm history for now.
The incredible 1.5 calorie breath mint.
Going out this way.
More horsepower than Ford Explorers is simply for the asking. It's the least we can do for you.
See your New England Jeep and Eagle dealer now.
Well, Geoff says the weather is very strange, and Al asks the question.
How strange is it?
It's very, very strange. Right now at Kennedy and LaGuardia airports in New York, Kennedy and LaGuardia airports in New York, 3 inches of snow on the ground. But mostly, it's Al Terzi right here to my left. Wow. But most of it now is on the grass, but it is starting to stick on the taxiways and on the runways. That's not really good. Bridgeport now reporting about 1.5 inches. That's from Bob Hazard at the Weather Service office. And in and around the Danbury area, about 4 inches of snow. How much in Hartford? How much in New Haven?
That is
How
weird.
much in New London? It's very weird. Here come the current conditions. Right now, 33 is our temp, 30 the dew point. The relative humidity is 89%. Our barometer is steady, and the wind is out of the north at 8 miles per hour. Now, look at these temperatures from across the region. There has been a little bit of light snow during the day. With these temperatures, there has been some melting, but the temperatures are going to go down below freezing, and so there will be ice on the roads tonight. I can't tell you if it's going to be widespread or patchy. Doesn't make any difference. You hit one spot with ice, it'll be just as if the whole state were ice covered. Be careful. 30 at Red Wright's place in Ridgefield. He said it's very pretty. It looks like cotton because they have 5 inches of snow on the ground. Most of it in the grass, but it is starting to stick on the driveway as well. 32 at Paul Giacarusso's place in Lisbon, who's been busy painting the baby's room all day. Baby due in 7 weeks. Snow in Lisbon? There's nothing. On the satellite map, low pressure system offshore has been spinning back moisture into Connecticut. That's been the culprit. The worst of the accumulation has been in the higher ground areas because as this moisture gets pushed on back, what's happening is as it rises into the hills, the air gets colder, it can hold less moisture, it has to fall in the form of snow. So I'm going to call for maybe 1 inch throughout portions of the state, but 1 to 3 inches in the higher elevations of the hills where you've already seen some snow. But as tonight turns into tomorrow morning, it travels offshore, the snow goes away, our next snow system comes in over the weekend. Actually, precipitation system could be rain and snow. Here's the forecast. Tonight, cloudy with some light snow again. Icy roads, real probable in many spots. 20 to 25 will be the low. Easterly winds 5 to 10. Tomorrow, light snow ends early, slowly clearing, mid-30s. Westerly winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. For Thursday, I should say, I'm moving the weekend closer. Passing clouds, a shower or two possible, 35 to 40. On Friday, we look for cloudy skies and showery conditions, and rain or snow Saturday or Sunday could be accompanied by sleet.
Sleet? We don't have enough trouble.
Rhymes with neat.
No,
I
that's
don't
so
think
neat.
so.
Thanks.
No.
Okay.
Thanks, Geoff.
Coming up, the Whalers hope to cool the Jets in Winnipeg.
And in basketball, Syracuse hopes to bounce into the regular season championship in the Big East. Ken Strayhorn with sports next.
Tonight, Ellen's getting married.
We need a bachelor party.
We're gonna have a night out too.
It's a bachelor party.
Strippers?
Strippers, yeah.
Oh, Billy!
Versus the bachelorettes.
You know what I just miss so much? Being seduced.
Isn't it great being out here with the boys?
Yeah, away from the ball and chain.
And our wives, too.
30-something.
If you like the look of money, visit your Volvo dealer, where you'll find great prices on all Volvo 240 and 740 models. So see your dealer soon. The prices never looked better.
Remarkably low factory-assisted lease rates on all 91 Volvos end March 31st.
All kinds of things you use every day are on sale this week at CVS at unusually low prices. Like Vidal Sassoon, 11-ounce shampoo, 7-ounce Form and Finish spray, or new 9-ounce Ultra Care, just $2.47 each this week. And 2.5-ounce Fix-It and Adhesive Cream or 2.7-ounce Fast Teeth Powder. They're $2.99 each at today's neighborhood drugstore.
Well, here's Smiling Ken in for Missing Bob.
Well, we open up tonight with a sport that's appropriate for the weather outside. That's hockey.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about that. In the NHL tonight, the Hartford Whalers go back to work. Holding third place in the 5-team Atom Division, the Whalers are at Winnipeg tonight. 10 games below 500. This has not been the best of years for the Jets. Off the ice, Whaler defenseman Adam Burke has started to rehab his injured knee. Yesterday, he underwent surgery to repair 2 torn ligaments. Bird is expected to be out from 6 to 9 months. The Lady Huskies at UConn are now 23-4 on the basketball season and Big East champs. It's the third time head coach Gino Auriemma and his ladies have taken the Big East. Next up for the Huskies will be the Big East tournament. It's set for this weekend at Georgetown. The #1 seed UConn will play Saturday night. The Huskies will face the winner of the Villanova-Syracuse game. The men at UConn are preparing to finish their regular season with games against Seton Hall and Pitt. With the regular season winding down, head coach Jim Calhoun can reflect fondly on this team.
I really like it as kids. I think it's been a tremendous group of kids to coach. I think that kind of unknowingly they've had a lot of things to maybe overcome, you know, pressure, certainly, expectations, already having rings and watches and a great deal of accomplishments, and maybe, even though they're motivated, maybe not having that quite the hungriness that some teams have because they had achieved so much at a younger age.
In the Big East regular season basketball race, UConn still has a chance to finish as high as third. That happened in part because St. John's beat Georgetown last night at Madison Square. Georgetown in control. The ball goes inside to Dikembe Mutombo. He gets it home, 12-12. St. John's then took the lead. Jason Buchanan on the alley-oop to Malik Sealy. 21-16 St. John's. Second half, and St. John's continue to step it up. This time, the ball rotates around to Sealy in the corner, and he bangs it home. St. John's held off Georgetown. Jason Buchanan hits the final, 68-58 St. John's. These are tough times for Johnny Unitas. The Hall of Fame quarterback has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Unitas is said to have significant assets, but he wanted to pay his debts in an orderly fashion. In 1984, Unitas and his partners paid $3.5 million to buy National Circuit Incorporated. The city of Baltimore guaranteed to pay $1.5 million of that loan and has now refused to honor their guarantee. From their spring training camp in Winter Haven, Florida, the Boston Red Sox are smiling about what they see. The teams need pitching, and manager Joe Morgan had some good words about some of his youngsters. From veteran Roger Clemens, the news is just as good. He had some physical problems at the start of last year, if you remember, but this year he said he just can't wait to start. Clemens through batting practice today. Roger Clemens, if he can come back and play well, as he did last year, but he didn't start well last year. Still 21-6, though. The Red Sox should be okay. Can they defend? I don't know.
We'll see.
All
Thanks,
right.
Kenny. Well, do ghosts and goblins get you all shook up?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, me too.
When we come back, meet a couple whose ghostly dream comes true. Stay where you are.
coming at you, the Washington's birthday sale. Your Chrysler Plymouth dealers are giving incredible deals on everything in stock, like Plymouth Sundance America, the lowest priced car in the world with a driver's airbag, Plymouth Voyager, the only minivan with an airbag, and the Chrysler New Yorker 5th Avenue, with more rear seat legroom than Cadillac Rome. It's to your advantage to hurry in, because the Washington's birthday sale ends soon. See your New England Chrysler Plymouth dealers today.
How do I know where to get my brakes done right?
Come to Midas. There's a lot of value in our $69 or $89 basic brake service. And you get something else. Peace of mind. Knowing you get a thorough inspection by Midas-trained experts and a written estimate up front. Knowing every brake shoe and pad is guaranteed for as long as you own your car. And knowing the job will be done right. That's why more people come to us for brakes, knowing that nobody beats Midas. Nobody.
If you have questions about your loved one's drug or alcohol problem, call for this free tape from Parkside, because this tape contains answers to 10 tough questions about this crisis condition, answers to questions that trouble you, answers to questions about getting help. So if you're confused and concerned about this problem, call for this free Parkside tape now. It's an important first step on the road to recovery. The tape is free. The help you'll get is priceless.
Please pass the all fruit.
Pass the Polaner all fruit.
Pass the Polaner all fruit.
Would you please pass the jelly?
Polaner all fruit is real fruit, sweetened only with fruit juice and no added sugar. You'll call it delicious, you'll call it remarkable, but please don't dare call it jelly. Polaner all fruit, the spreadable fruit.
Coming up tonight on the late edition of Action News, we, of course, will have the latest summary of events in the Gulf. The ABC News team is reporting that the Allies are in virtual control of Kuwait City, the capital. Plus, the Connecticut-based relief organization AmeriCares is packing up for another trip overseas, and it seems they're going to Kuwait. Those stories and more coming up at 11 on Action News.
Is your house haunted? Rita McClure of Watertown wrote to us and asked if we'd get to the bottom of the mystery of the Watertown ghost house. Action News reporter Harry Martin has the chilling details in tonight's 8 Wishes series.
Is there a ghost roaming the halls of the 200-year-old house in Watertown? Is this house that Rita and Jim McClure decided to renovate haunted? Well, Rita says yes. She felt the ghost touch her.
I went in the bedroom and I could feel somebody stroking my head. I wasn't sure what to make of it. I was startled, and since Jim was sitting in the living room, I knew it wasn't Jim.
Jim has his own story to tell. He says that he has heard voices in the house.
You could tell that they're in the building. It sounds like somebody talking in the distance.
So we called on Connecticut's world-famous ghost hunters, Ed and Lorraine Warren, who visited the house with me to talk with Jim and Rita.
And as I come closer to this part of the house is where I feel the spirit of this woman.
Lorraine says she felt the spirit of a woman in the house. It was especially strong in an upstairs bedroom.
Well, it's an earthbound spirit. It's nothing negative. It's nothing demonic, nothing of that nature.
But you say there are two of them now.
But the man's spirit is over on the other side.
Lorraine says the spirit is that of a powerful woman who apparently isn't very fond of men. Consider that the most startling incident happened when Rita and Jim had an argument one evening. That's when, for some unknown reason, the refrigerator door popped open and it hit Jim in the shoulder. Ed offers this explanation.
When people have violent arguments, this will bring about a lot of phenomena in a haunted house.
So, is the place haunted?
The house is haunted because the spirit of a woman has remained on in that home. She has a glow around her, which is a definite indication of an earthbound spirit.
It's not anything that's going to drive them from the house. She's there, she's not bothering them in any way, and, they can live peacefully together.
We have also found out that a teenage girl died in this house about 100 years ago, but according to the Warrens, the spirit is much older than that, and it is not this girl. They say that the spirit is going to stay at the house until the McClures choose to have the spirit removed, perhaps by a priest.
So, Harry, did you sense anything when you were in there?
I didn't sense anything in there, but then again, I'm not clairvoyant or anything. I was just there as a reporter.
And you ran out as fast as you could.
Yeah. Very nice people, though. They're super.
Great. Well, we wish them well. Thank you, Harry.
That wraps up this edition of Action News.
ABC World News is next. We'll see you later on with more about the Gulf.
On the desert today, a vast array of Allied tanks and armored personnel carriers. The U.S. military says that retreating Iraqis are so confused by the order of battle, they do not know where to look next. This is the other great crowd on the desert floor. More than 30,000 Iraqi soldiers have now surrendered. Kuwait, it seems, was not worth fighting for.
From ABC, this is a special edition of World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. When Lieutenant General Thomas Kelly, the Director of Operations, was asked at the Pentagon today, where's the fight in the Iraqi army, he said, they have run into the finest army in the world. And he added, 41 days of Allied bombing. With rare exceptions on the battlefield tonight, the Iraqi military qualifies for the description paper tiger. There is fight left in some units, but in almost every case, the U.S. and its allies have apparently accomplished their individual objectives. The war is not over. For one thing, there's been a serious fight between U.S. and Iraqi forces around the Kuwait International Airport. But the U.S. Embassy in Kuwait City has been visited by U.S. Marines, and ABC's Forrest Sawyer has arrived in Kuwait City as well. We talked to him less than an hour ago. Forrest, you've been in Kuwait City for several hours now. What's your strongest impression?
That the city is absolutely deserted, so it appears. I am told that there are a number of Kuwaitis who are inside their homes. They have been afraid to come out now, and they have been told by Kuwaiti resistance members to remain inside their homes until the city is absolutely secure by Saudi and American forces. For now, it is a ghost town that has been torn apart by the Iraqi forces.
Now, you've obviously met up with the Kuwaiti resistance. Tell us about them.
Well, they have been here for a long time. I am standing, Peter, on the roof of a Kuwaiti resistance member's home. This is a secure place for us. In one of the rooms, he has piled up sugar and detergent, a number of things that they pass out to people. The Kuwaiti resistance has been hard at work here, though they are a small number. And we went to one of their hideouts, I guess you might say, which is a basement of a suburban home. There they had 18 prisoners from Iraq, many of whom said that one of the reasons that they decided to give up, in fact, one of the biggest reasons, was because they had been bombed so heavily by the Allies.
So is the Kuwaiti resistance in charge of the city?
I guess as far as anybody is in charge, you could say that. One of our crew actually drove by some Iraqi soldiers who were still armed and tried to wave them down and make them stop. They quickly moved on. When I asked about our own security and their security when we were here, whether that caused a problem, he said, well, they used to be the policemen and we were the thieves, and now we are the policemen and they are the thieves.
Have you actually then seen evidence of Iraqis still in the streets in any fashion whatsoever?
Well, I haven't, but as I say, my crew was out driving around and drove directly by them. They were armed, they tried to stop them, and they kept moving by.
In the several hours you've been there, any signs of actual fighting?
We have seen a dead Iraqi soldier who was just on the outskirts of town, but for the most part, we are told by the Kuwaiti resistance here that overnight, the Iraqi soldiers, perhaps on some signal, piled into Kuwaiti vehicles and headed out of town. They believe that they went north. And so while there were soldiers one day, the very next day, they were simply gone.
Aside from the damage that has been done by the Allied bombing campaign, what evidence is there that the Iraqis have cut and run so?
Considerable evidence, Peter. There are caches of weapons that have been simply left standing. At the hideout that our crew visited, they were piled up right there where the Kuwaitis were able to show them. And at a police station that I visited, equally large caches of weapons. Those were heavy ammunition and rifles, all sorts of things that had simply been left while they disappeared. In fact, tanks have been left sitting in the middle of the street while they ran away.
Tell us a little more about the Iraqi prisoners. Have you had a chance to talk to them?
I did talk to them. In fact, I talked with 13 prisoners who were kept in a cell at the Kuwaiti police station that had been used as a headquarters for the Iraqis. And they said that they hated Saddam, that they had been forced to be here, that they were very hungry, they were very tired, and they were very glad that for them at least, all of this is over.
I get the sense you've managed to travel around the city to some extent. How widely? For example, have you been over to the embassy at all?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I did go to the U.S. Embassy. There is no one there. However, U.S. Special Forces, a U.S. Special Forces team of about 10 men was there. They were told to move to the Saudi Arabian Embassy, where they joined a Saudi Arabian Special Forces team. Neither of those teams has been allowed to go into their respective embassies. That is to take place at a later time. The Americans had a flag that they could have flown over the embassy, but they did not. They are waiting. Over the embassy right now, a flag is flying. I have seen it. I do not know whether it's an American flag or another one. The same, I can say, for the Saudi Arabian embassy. Some flags are there. Which they are, I don't know.
What other evidence have you come upon of U.S. forces actually in the city?
That is all of the evidence I have come upon of U.S. forces. As for Saudi forces, I saw an armored personnel carrier that was tracking by, I guess, about 50 yards from where I was standing with an Egyptian, Lebanese, and an Indian group of families, about 6 of them. They were the first people we had come across, and I have never seen such jubilation and exhilaration as seeing people come in from the outside in my entire life, Peter.
Tell me more about that.
This was the first place that we drove in, and we passed all of these burnt vehicles and empty stores that had been burned, debris scattered everywhere. We saw a light over in a deserted building. They began to shout something at us. I asked, "Who are you?" And they said, "We are Egyptians, we are Lebanese, and we're glad you're here." They welcomed us into their home, and actually in front of our cameras began shouting and dancing and being delirious at the fact that their long 7-month nightmare had come to an end.
Now, how do the Kuwaitis, I think I know the answer to this, but how do the Kuwaitis feel at being liberated, those you've come across?
They are equally exuberant. One rather telling phrase, the man whose house this is, as a matter of fact, said to me, "We went to sleep Iraqis, and when we awoke, we were Kuwaitis again." I don't believe that they've seen a happier day in their life.
One of the reasons Forrest looks like that is because it is the middle of the night in Kuwait City. He looks green on your screen because he's being shot with what we call a night scope, so they don't have to use lights because it's still a fairly potentially dangerous situation. At any rate, in just 24 hours, there have been some dramatic changes, as you can see there, and also in what the military calls the dynamics of the battlefield. For one thing, advance elements of both U.S. and British forces are said to have swept across Iraq in the direction of Basra, all the way to the Euphrates River. That should effectively trap Iraq's Republican Guards, who were fanned out along the Kuwaiti-Iraqi frontier. French forces are right next to them, in part to serve as a blocking force lest any Iraqi elements try to attack from the north. In Kuwait itself, the 1st and 2nd Marine Divisions, which drove north across the Saudi border, have now turned east to converge on Kuwait City itself. And finally, on a broad front all across the Kuwaiti frontier, from the coast to the border with Iraq, other Marines are advancing with units from Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Qatar. An American colonel on the battlefield said, "Iraqi troops are coming out all over the place with their hands up. It is incredible." But that does not mean that all Iraqi troops are giving up without a fight. Here's ABC's Bill Rediker.
The Iraqi army may be retreating, but it is firing on its way out.
We have seen no indication that they are laying down their weapons and walking or getting back to the Iraq border. Quite the opposite.
As they drive north to encircle Republican Guard positions and then destroy Iraq's best forces, the Allies claim they have destroyed 2,000 tanks since the war began and defeated 21 Iraqi divisions. That's a force of more than 200,000 soldiers, mostly infantry, but still roughly half of Iraq's army in Kuwait.
We're not here to try to kill the Iraqi soldiers. We're here to try to get the terrain and free Kuwait back up.
While Marine tanks stormed north and fought a pitched battle near the international airport in Kuwait City, attack helicopters and A-10 tank killers leapfrogged ahead to hit Republican Guard artillery and tanks near the Iraqi border. This pilot said he destroyed a dozen tanks in 3 missions.
It's the biggest 4th of July show you've ever seen. And to see those tanks just boom, and more stuff just keeps spewing out of them, and the shells flying on the ground, and they just become white hot.
Iraqi bunkers, some loaded with military equipment, were blown up by Army airborne units.
I don't think we should just call it quits now. We've really been moving in. We've had a lot of success.
Earlier, Iraqi soldiers emerged from the holes. Some of them had been dug in for 6 months and endured constant aerial bombardment for the past 5 weeks. Their strain gave way to pleas of mercy as they kissed the hand of an armed Marine public affairs officer who tried to calm them down. Field commanders today said they were losing track of how many Iraqis they had taken prisoner. At least 30,000 had been rounded up by late today, but the number continued to grow. Late today, it began to rain, and that could delay critical fuel and ammunition from reaching frontline Allied forces. At this Army airborne base, all supply flights were canceled.
We've had visibilities that have gone down to about a half-mile visibility, and with that we've been forecasting light to occasional moderate turbulence, which of course is going to have an effect on aircraft. So are the visibilities and so are the gusty winds.
Military sources also warned that a logistical logjam near the front could slow down the Allied campaign. Support units are reportedly having problems in keeping up with fast-moving troops and armor. Tonight, Central Command will not speculate on when the war may be over. As one general said, we will continue to attack, attack, attack. Bill Redeker, ABC News, Saudi Arabia.
Saddam Hussein tried to end the war earlier today. He was on the radio overnight saying that the withdrawal of all his troops from Kuwait would be completed by tonight. He was wrong. President Bush responded by saying Saddam is not interested in peace, but only to regroup and fight another day. At the White House, ABC's Britt Hume.
4 days ago, the president prepared a statement in the Oval Office, much as he did today. In it, he offered to hold off a ground assault if Saddam would accept all UN resolutions and withdraw from Kuwait in a week. But that was then, and this is now, and Saddam's order to his forces to retreat did him no good today.
Saddam's most recent speech is an outrage. He is not withdrawing. His defeated forces are retreating. He is trying to claim victory in the midst of a rout. And he is not voluntarily giving up Kuwait. The coalition will therefore continue to prosecute the war with undiminished intensity.
The president got a briefing on the progress of the war today from Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Powell, who told him elite Republican Guard units in southern Iraq have been trapped, cut off, and cannot escape with their armor. Powell also said armed Iraqi units attempting to leave Kuwait are under withering Allied attack. The president reacted to that briefing in a speech at nearby Fort Myer later.
We are not only on schedule, we're ahead of schedule. And no commander-in-chief has ever been so proud of America's men and women in uniform.
In the faces of the president's men today, you could see that, as one White House official put it, they were beginning to believe the news from the front. That was during a ceremony for visiting Colombian President Gaviria. Afterward, the focus returned to the Gulf and the task of dealing with a post-war Iraq the administration regretfully assumes will still be under the control of Saddam Hussein. Britt Hume, ABC News, the White House.
There's a lot more. We'll continue in just a moment.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by Dairy Ease.
When 1 in 4 adults looks at dairy food, their stomach says stop, say no now, or pay later. Antacids aren't made for this problem, called lactose intolerance. But new Dairy Ease is. It's not an antacid, but a natural nutritional supplement that helps comfortable digestion of ice cream, cheese, and milk. Now enjoy dairy food as naturally as everyone else with pleasant-tasting, chewable new Dairy Ease.
Do you have a cold?
Yeah.
Here are 2 cold medicines. One relieves these 3 symptoms, this 9. Choose one.
9.
Why?
That's me all the way down the list. Muscle ache, congestion, general body ache, headache.
You chose Dristan over Sudafed.
I am shocked, but...
Would you try Dristan?
Yes, I would.
How do you feel now?
Night and day difference, 100% better.
Dristan relieves 9 tough cold symptoms.
I love Dristan, yeah. It's great.
Almost 3 days after the ground war began, another reflection of how well it has gone for the U.S. military. Yesterday, the casualty figures were 4 killed in action in the ground battle and 21 wounded. The figures today, 4 killed and 21 wounded. Nobody wounded or killed today. The difference is, of course, that Scud attack on eastern Saudi Arabia on Dhahran yesterday. The latest figures on that are 21 killed and 100 wounded. Now, to talk about the shape of battle, we're joined by our two military analysts, Tony Cordesman in Washington, and in Boston, former Marine General, retired Marine General Bernard Traynor. First to you, Tony Cordesman. Fairly simple question. You hear it from the military today. Is it over? And if it isn't over, what's the threat yet to come?
No, Peter, it's not over. I think that we've heard it again and again that we have to see how this ends, and it will end not in Kuwait or in Kuwait City, but somewhere in Iraq, along the Euphrates, and somewhere near Basra. If we can choke them off, the rest of those 21 divisions, which still have some effectiveness, it is ended in a military sense because Saddam Hussein has no air assets, no meaningful missile assets, and no real army assets that he can bring to bear once we have destroyed or effectively forced the rest to surrender.
General Traynor, variation on the same question to you. If the fight is carried to Iraq and Kuwait has fallen, is there any way that Saddam Hussein can recoup?
Not really. If we go into Iraq after him, even the forces that he has available to him in Iraq that would be torn to pieces as they'd come south to try to oppose us. So if we went into Iraq, he couldn't militarily stop us.
Other than mopping up, then, in your view, is it essentially over?
Yes.
General Traynor, Tony Cordesman, thank you both very much. We'll be back in just a moment.
Over 10 years ago, in restaurants across America, one instant coffee did something no other instant has ever done.
If this is instant, we just bought ourselves another coffee.
We've never had instant coffee this good.
People who thought they were drinking fresh brewed coffee were secretly switched to Folgers Crystals. Real people, not actors.
I mean, it just tastes like it's been brewed. This would wake me up.
Try it yourself. Write to this address and get a free jar of Folgers Crystals, the only instant that dares to make believers out of fresh brewed coffee drinkers.
I'll drink to that.
Ounce for ounce, can you mix a bowl of cereal with more vitamin and mineral nutrition than Total?
Sure. Well, that's in a bit. And we'll sprinkle some of these.
Sorry, all those put together don't add up to an equal amount of Total. For all this nutrition, nothing can top Total. Nothing.
Wow.
What do you call a car that has learned to use the wind? A car designed to settle in when you race into it head on and stabilize when it buffets you from the side. Road and Track called it one of the 10 best cars in the world. But it is probably better known as the Infiniti Q45.
When I say home by 11, I mean 11.
But, Daddy...
Another Maalox moment. Medical fact. There's no faster therapy known for your stomach acid than Maalox.
I just worried.
Maalox. No faster therapy known.
The United Nations Security Council met into the early hours of the morning and then again this afternoon. Some of the 15 members have been pushing for a ceasefire that would let Iraqi troops retreat safely from Kuwait. So far, they're not making any progress. Here's ABC's David Ensor.
American and allied diplomats at the UN are blocking efforts by Cuba, Yemen, and others to get a Security Council vote on a call for a ceasefire. The allies want promises in writing from Saddam Hussein first.
There has to be a very clear, formal, precise, written acceptance of these other resolutions, of all the 12 resolutions.
That would commit Iraq to recognizing the Emir of Kuwait's government, to acknowledging liability for damage done, and to conceding there may be trials for war crimes committed by Iraqi troops. An angry Iraqi ambassador charges that the Allies want to shoot Iraqis in the back as they withdraw and want to destroy Iraq.
They would not be happy to see a ceasefire or total withdrawal, a peaceful withdrawal from Kuwait. They are not interested in Kuwait or in peace or, for that matter, resolution of Security Council.
The Iraqi was so bitter at last night's closed meeting that he called Kuwait's ambassador the dwarf on my right. Don't gloat, he said, adding that the Kuwaitis' presence reminded him of a joke about the son of a donkey.
If any insult comes from Iraq, that is a compliment for me because, I mean, Iraq has been disgraced in the whole world.
Insults like that are unusual in a place where polite diplomatic language is the norm. The anger on both sides here shows how difficult it is going to be to make peace in the Gulf. David Ensor, ABC News at the United Nations.
In a moment, ABC's Bill Blakemore in Baghdad. We'll be back.
Ask me what counts most after 40 years in the car business, and I don't have to think twice. One, the minivans. We invented them. Two, driver's airbags in every car we build in this country. What do we do for an encore? Put them together. Minivans with a driver's side airbag. Nobody else is doing it. You still have to use your seatbelt with a minivan airbag, but it will save lives. A lot of lives.
Before I even consider taking a medicine, I have to feel good about it. So before I switched from Tylenol to Advil, I did my homework. I found that doctors have recommended Advil over 50 million times, and that over 100 million people have tried it. That includes me. And you know, 2 Advil work better on my really tough headaches than 2 extra-strength Tylenol. Hey, I don't take just any medicine, but I do take Advil. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
In most commercials for Choice Hotels International, someone famous pops out of a suitcase. But the star of this commercial is the Choice Yellow Ribbon Fund, created for the American Red Cross. To support our troops and their families, we're donating $5 for every reservation made and used through our special 800 number at a Quality, Comfort, Clarion, Sleep, Roadway, Friendship, or Econo Lodge hotel. The Choice Yellow Ribbon Fund. Call 1-800-4-CHOICE. You'll be doing your part for those who are doing theirs.
Hello. I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm having a dinner party and I've run out of coffee.
Come in.
Thank you.
Would Taster's Choice be too good for your guests?
Oh, I think they could get used to it.
Could they?
Yes.
Savor the sophisticated taste of Taster's Choice.
Have you met your new neighbor yet? Oh, I've popped in for coffee.
Waiting for the war to end in Baghdad. Once again today, the Iraqi people listened to the words of Saddam Hussein and heard a very different assessment of the war than the rest of us. ABC's Bill Blakemore is still there.
People in the center of Baghdad this morning had heard the early radio announcement that Iraq was withdrawing from Kuwait, and they were hopeful the war might now end.
We hope peace come as easy, as quickly as possible.
And with Iraqi dignity intact.
30 countries against only one country. I think we made good job.
Then at midday, Iraqis listened as Saddam Hussein himself said Iraqi forces were withdrawing and addressed Iraqi soldiers in the past tense, saying God was with you in your fight, and you were brave. At about 2:30 p.m., we thought we heard more heavy Allied bombing on Baghdad. But at least some of that turned out to be thunder from a passing rainstorm, sweeping through Baghdad on the wind which has been blowing steadily from the south for 2 days now. This wind has brought with it billows of dark, greasy mist which smells of oil. This new added worry for people here has left a sooty grime on outdoor surfaces. The rainwater collecting in the bottom of this hotel's swimming pool, which was green until yesterday, has turned black.
The air seems a bit colder, and people here in Baghdad are wondering if it's because so little light has filtered through from the sun for 2 days now. People here still have no way of telling whether their afternoon has been turned into night by bombed oil refineries or ignited oil wells, or both.
But concerns about this extraordinary air pollution took second place this afternoon in the minds of Baghdad's residents. Primary concerns here are about the fate of Iraqi soldiers and what Iraq's government will do next in this war. And repeated air attacks on Baghdad tonight kept telling people here that it's still not over. Bill Blakemore, ABC News in Baghdad.
That smoke and oily black rain, apparently from the burning oil fields in Kuwait, fell over Turkey today, nearly 600 miles away. Local officials advise residents to wash their fruits and vegetables. We'll have more news in a moment.
I swim, I jog. I love junk food. Sometimes even I get constipation. When it happens to me, I take this little pill. It's X-Lax. Surprised?
More people choose X-Lax than any other laxative. Today's X-Lax gives you a choice. Extra gentle pills when you need a little help, regular pills when you need a little more. Today's X-Lax, for regular people who sometimes aren't.
In the midday sun, a gentle breeze, the embrace, wide eyes, remember these, the touch, the feel, the fabric of our lives, the touch, the feel of cotton, the fabric of our lives.
The same medicine found in the prescription drug Motrin.
The same medicine found in the prescription drug Motrin.
Same as in Motrin in non-prescription strength.
The same medicine found in the prescription drug.
Did you ever notice that a lot of pain relievers seem to be saying the same thing? Well, if you want the same medicine found in the prescription drug Motrin, wouldn't it just be simpler to ask for Motrin IB? Non-prescription strength Motrin IB. You can't buy a more effective pain reliever without a prescription. Motrin IB. Accept no alternatives.
It's the middle of the night now in Kuwait City. In the next segment of our broadcast, we're going to have more with Forrest Sawyer there. In Saudi Arabia today, workers continue to go through the rubble left by the deadliest attack of the war, the Scud missile, which hit a barrack for American troops last night, killed, as we said a little earlier, 28 and left 100 wounded. The victims were not frontline troops, but support and supply personnel. Among the dead, at least 2 from the 14th Quartermaster Detachment out of Greensburg, Pennsylvania. They had not been sent to fight, but to handle water purification. ABC's John McKenzie is in Pennsylvania tonight.
Ever since the Civil War, the people of Greensburg have sent troops into battle. Today they learned, as they have before, some would not be coming home.
I was really shocked, because I thought the Patriots were doing their job, and if they could stop them in Israel, they should have stopped them in Saudi Arabia.
There's an attachment to everybody that's had to go over there. You know, it's like, hey, those are our people. You know, they're fighting for our rights.
Here in this town of 30,000, some were anxious, others frustrated today, waiting to hear just who had been hurt and who had been spared.
When the 14th Detachment headed for the Middle East, people here admit they knew there were dangers. But they also figured this is a Quartermaster Corps. It's stationed in the rear. It should be relatively safe.
You're going into a hostile environment. Nobody is safe in a hostile environment. Combat is combat, whether it be on the front lines or whether it be in the rear.
A month ago, the 69 reservists, including 13 women, were sent to Fort Lee, Virginia to train in water purification methods. Reservists like 19-year-old Edwin McCauley.
I am nervous a little bit, but I'm just taking day by day to make it easier on myself.
McCauley and the rest of the detachment had been in the Gulf only 6 days when the Scud missile hit their barracks. Last night, he called his parents in Greensburg to say he had been cut, but was otherwise all right.
It was a very emotional conversation. He had gone through one hell of an emotional situation.
This evening, Army officials say it could be days before this reserve unit and this town learn the full extent of their loss. John McKenzie, ABC News, Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
In a moment, when our special edition of World News Tonight continues on most of these stations, we'll be talking again with ABC's Forrest Sawyer in Kuwait City, and we'll have a report on a major tank battle for control of the Kuwait City airport.
Tonight on Nightline, Kuwait City is free. What did the Iraqis destroy? What atrocities did they commit? Forrest Sawyer in Kuwait City, Diane Sawyer in New York, tonight.
Only one chicken has blue ribbon taste, and that's the one called Weaver.
Landing gear, guaranteed not to fail. The Stride Rite Super Series, guaranteed until they're outgrown. Guaranteed to stop a train. The Stride Rite Super Series, guaranteed until they're outgrown.
Available at Prague's.
Now over here, we're gonna put that computer. You don't want it over there? I don't know.
When the moment comes to build your dreams, no card's better than Gold MasterCard.
This corner's for your weight machine.
With more buying power. At nearly 3 times more places than American Express.
This wall's for your trophies. No pressure, though. Yeah.
Gold MasterCard, piece by piece, the best gold card to master the moment.
Now this is a baseball.
Don't hang up, Connecticut. Talk yourself into a bargain.
From ABC, this special edition of World News Tonight with Peter Jennings continues.
First, a review of the highlights. This morning, Saddam Hussein himself went on Baghdad radio to say that all his troops would be withdrawing from Kuwait and that, God willing, the pullout will be completed today. His words. President Bush called the speech an outrage and said the only way to end the war was for Saddam Hussein to renounce his claim to Kuwait and accept all the other UN resolutions, which he has not done. And so the fighting continues. The U.S. High Command says even though the Iraqi army is in full retreat, many of them are trying to leave with their weapons, and those are the ones still being attacked by coalition forces. And while thousands more Iraqis surrender today, others are, as we said, continuing to fight. One such battle has been going on at Kuwait City Airport, and ABC's Forrest Sawyer has made it into the Kuwaiti capital, Kuwait City. How do the Kuwaitis, I think I know the answer to this, but how do the Kuwaitis feel at being liberated, those you've come across?
They are equally exuberant. One rather telling phrase. The man whose house this is, as a matter of fact, said to me, "We went to sleep Iraqis, and when we awoke, we were Kuwaitis again." I don't believe that they've seen a happier day in their lives.
Any sense of how they've managed to live through all this period?
Well, I think through organization. Food has been gathered into one location and passed out. I've had a look at some rocket-propelled grenade launchers that I saw months ago back in Kopchi that were smuggled in by the resistance and are now here in these locations. They have just tried to pull themselves together, tried to coordinate as best they can, and endure. Nevertheless, about 1,000 of them have been rounded up in just the last week. They have disappeared. I have been shown evidence of torturing. One torture center, I am told by Kuwaitis, was a kindergarten. And on the wall, I saw a bizarre scene, a sign that said something like, "Long live Saddam," right next to a picture of Donald Duck's nephews. It is a surreal place right now, Peter.
Just to remind people at home why you look like you do, it's the middle of the night in Kuwait City, and we're photographing you with a night scope. As you've driven around the city, how much evidence have you seen of really serious physical damage?
Considerable. All of the streets are littered with burned-out tanks or tanks that have simply been deserted, cars that have been torched and looted. We drove by stores. Each and every one of them was burned out. The police station that I visited had been burned by the Iraqis just before they left, and all along on the horizon, you can see those oil fires about which we have heard so much. And as we have gotten so much closer to them now, you can see that they are absolutely huge. So what we have here is a deserted and empty city with these glowing red embers on the horizon.
I think people may be a little puzzled as to how it is that you are ahead of advancing U.S. forces. How did that work out?
Well, in fact, I am here by the graces of the Saudi government. Prince General Khalid bin Sultan, who is the leader of the Allied forces, has invited me to work with the Saudi forces. That's why I was in Kuwait on the far southeastern side and why I've been able to pass through some checkpoints here. We are operating entirely on our own and without a military center.
I was really concerned about your safety, actually. So you're really there with Saudi forces in the city. You're not hanging out there alone, just you and no other forces.
Well, then let me be clear. No, I'm saying that's how I got past the checkpoints, Peter.
Oh.
We are, in fact, quite here by ourselves, although I count the Kuwaiti resistance to be good company.
Okay. How many members of the Kuwaiti resistance have you come across? Do they look like a significant force, or are they a small number of people you've run into?
I'm not really able to tell you that. One Kuwaiti resistance leader says there are about 3,000 of them. I have only seen 10 or 15 people, a group that was at the police station, the few people that we have come across here. I think that they are scattered through the city, and I suspect that they are not a particularly large number, although by tomorrow I'll be able to give you a better read on that.
ABC's Forrest Sawyer in Kuwait City, who we talked to just a short while ago. He looks that color because we shot it with the night scope. It is, of course, the middle of the night there. If much of the battle to retake Kuwait seems to have been easier than commanders had expected, that is by no means universally true. ABC's Bob Zelnick reports tonight on a major tank battle that is still being fought on the outskirts of Kuwait City.
Marines advancing toward the international airport south of Kuwait City have met sustained resistance from elements of Iraq's heavily armored 3rd Corps.
Control of that area is vital to the Allies because it is a major intersection for roads heading north. By nightfall, the battle was still undecided.
It had gotten dark and both sides broke off, and I would tell you that the U.S. forces in that area are getting pretty tired right now. They've been attacking constantly for 3 days.
Earlier, in a significant encounter, Marines defeated brigades from the same Iraqi Corps. After learning that Iraqi T-55 tanks were massing for a counterattack along the route north, the Marines attacked with artillery and airstrikes. Military sources say that caused the Iraqis to surge forward toward Marine positions. Marines using older M60 tanks destroyed nearly 80 of the Iraqi tanks along with rocket launchers and other combat vehicles. The Marines did not lose a single tank. To the north, Allied forces have blocked the Republican Guards from retreating further into Iraq. Units from the Allied 7th Corps engaged the Republican Guards, inflicting serious damage on one mechanized division and lesser damage on 2 armored divisions. Throughout the theater, the Iraqis have had trouble retreating. Military sources say that is because of the heavy Allied bombing, which has made communications between the Iraqi units extremely difficult.
The battlefield is confused right now on the part of the Iraqis. They're having difficulty sensing from which direction they might be attacked.
Senior Pentagon officials predict the full liberation of Kuwait City tomorrow. They say the ground war planned for 7 to 10 days will be over inside of a week. Bob Zelnick, ABC News at the Pentagon.
In a moment, the confusion and anger in the streets of the Jordanian capital, Amman. How will the war end for Saddam Hussein and making plans to rebuild Kuwait?
Get the power. Get the picture. Get the prices. At Rent-A-Center.
It's Electronic Power Days at Rent-A-Center. Choose a color portable TV, a VCR, or a boombox with CD player. Your choice, $9.99 a week. And this 100-watt Fisher stereo is just $16.99 a week.
Get it now, get it fast, get it smart. At Rent-A-Center.
America's largest rent-to-own company.
Give me a T.
Trade-ins are higher than ever.
Give me an O.
On the #1 import in Connecticut.
Give me a Y.
Your Connecticut Toyota dealer has to move them out now.
Give me an O.
Factory option packages save you even more.
Give me a T.
Timing is critical. Hurry in now.
Give me an A.
All Toyota cars and trucks are on sale.
Give me an F.
Save even more with factory-to-dealer incentives.
Give me an A.
Act now. Don't delay.
Give me an L. L. I love what you do for me, Toyota.
Ends March 4th.
If there was jubilation in Kuwait City today, and there certainly was, there was shock and dismay in some other parts of the Arab world. Many people who had supported or counted on Saddam Hussein find it hard to believe that he is folding so easily. ABC's John Donovan is in the Jordanian capital, Amman.
Everywhere in Amman today, people asked, can it be true? Their newspapers have favored Iraq's version of events in the war. Their television has not broadcast pictures of Iraqi troops surrendering. Most people had no idea that Iraq was anywhere near losing Kuwait until Saddam Hussein told them himself.
We really feel very, very depressed. 99% of the Jordanian people are really depressed about this thing.
A rare admission to a foreign TV camera today. Many people here are fed up with the questions of Western journalists. Everyone else insists that Iraq has done well, that Saddam Hussein is leaving Kuwait to fight another day.
No, we are not defeated. At the right time, he took this step in order to save his forces.
Palestinian leaders argue that the crisis at least drew attention to their cause.
And we are very much satisfied with the fact that the Palestinian case is on the top of the agenda these days.
Another pro-Baghdad demonstration here tonight outside the Iraqi embassy. But it was brief and small, in part because Jordanian police closed the area. In part also perhaps because people here are more confused than they want to let on. When cameras are not around, some here say that while they wanted the bloodshed stopped, they did not want Iraq to quit so soon, and that while Saddam Hussein fought like a hero, he may also have set back the Palestinian cause. John Donovan, ABC News, Amman.
Much the same sentiments were being expressed by many of the 1.5 million Palestinians living under Israeli occupation. A far cry today from the reaction in most of Israel. Here's ABC's Dean Reynolds.
The words of Saddam Hussein hung heavily over the West Bank today. The Asawi family took their tea and coffee with lumps of chagrin, their faces the picture of disappointment, despite their words of defiance. We supported Saddam, Majis Asawi says, because he supported us. It is a human reaction. But the news is bad. Saddam Hussein is losing this war, and so too, in a way, are they.
There are many who are disappointed, who are sad, who feel that the West seriously wants to humiliate Saddam and want to see, and through him to humiliate the Arabs.
That idea also troubles the Israeli military. A humiliated Saddam Hussein may mean more missile attacks on Israel.
He's going to use this measure, or these missiles, in order to improve his bargaining position up to the last moment.
But the sense among most Israelis is that the danger is almost gone. This week is Purim in Israel, the Jewish equivalent of Halloween. School children made light of the war with their costumes, a Patriot missile, a U.S. soldier, a gas mask kit. For these Tel Aviv children, what once was strange is now familiar. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Tel Aviv.
We'll have more news in just a moment.
The doctor called in the prescription. Can you pick it up on the way home? We didn't get anything for dinner.
The full-service pharmacy at your Super Stop and Shop. Because when someone you love is running a fever, the last thing you need is to be running all over town.
Hey, do you get the medicine?
Yeah. And this will make him feel better, too.
Cruising, I feel, is something that a lot of people dream about.
Somewhere between a wish and a dream, somewhere.
Somewhere is here on a princess cruise.
Somewhere between a wave and the sea, between a glance and a touch, somewhere.
Somewhere. Only on Princess. It's more than a cruise. It's the Love Boat.
Mitsubishi 3000 GT was just named Motor Trend's Import Car of the Year. To celebrate, we're offering big savings on other award winners, including Eclipse Turbo, a Motor Trend top buy 2 years in a row. You could save up to $1,500 on any new Eclipse through factory-to-dealer incentives. The award winner is Mitsubishi. The savings winner is you.
Starting at $10,959, Eclipse is more than $1,800 less than Celica or Prelude.
As it becomes crystal clear that Saddam Hussein has lost the military battle, the argument intensifies over the eventual political outcome of the war. The administration has made no secret of the fact that it would be very happy to see Saddam Hussein deposed. Here's ABC's John McCarthy.
Polls show a vast majority of Americans think the final objective of the U.S. war effort should be to force Saddam Hussein from power. Increasingly, that sentiment is shared by members of Congress.
Saddam Hussein may call himself a victor, but he should be treated as the loser he is, and the terms of surrender should exclude him from being the leader of Iraq.
This international blowhard must now face the music. In the words of the 1960 hit by the Guess Who, Saddam, it's too late. You've gone too far. You've lost this one. You've come undone.
Many in the Bush administration share these views, but officials say because the UN mandate does not call for Saddam Hussein's removal and U.S. laws prohibit assassinations, President Bush is now resigned to the fact that the United States will probably have to tolerate Saddam Hussein for a while longer. Officials say their best hope now is that the Iraqi people will do the job once they contemplate what their leader has done. His big ideas have all failed. Instead of adding a rich new province to bankroll Iraq's rush toward new prosperity, Saddam Hussein has drawn the wrath of the world upon his country. His military was once the largest in the Middle East and a source of great pride to the Iraqi people. It is now a shambles. His economy is a disaster, and with him in charge, it will probably stay that way. No one who has the money wants to help rebuild Iraq with Saddam Hussein in power. It is the hope of the Bush administration that what is left of the Iraqi military will realize that its leader is a loser and find some way to replace him. John McWethy, ABC News, the State Department.
As governments begin to devote more time to thinking about how this war will end and how the fractures in the Middle East are set and perhaps even mended, politicians and diplomats will inevitably look to the past for examples. There is no one example. But by way of illustration, if not example, this is how the Great War, World War I, ended. By the summer of 1918, after 4 bloody years of war, the German army was losing its will to fight. The Battle of the Marne in France was decisive. 15,000 German soldiers were captured on August the 8th, 1918, as they tried to retreat in panic. It was the beginning of the end of World War I. The fighting continued for more than 2 months. By the end of October, German supply lines in France and Belgium were virtually cut off. On October 29th, sailors of the German fleet in the North Atlantic mutinied. The sailors had had enough, and so had the German people. "Sir, you no longer have an army," an aide told the German leader, Kaiser Wilhelm. On November the 9th, the German government fell. Kaiser Wilhelm fled to the Netherlands the next day. On November the 11th, in a railway car just north of Paris, Germany agreed to the Allied terms of armistice, a temporary truce. German troops would leave all occupied territory. Their weapons would be left in place. In January 1919, the Allies met at the Versailles Palace outside Paris to write a formal peace treaty. They agreed that Germany should be punished and prevented from ever making war again. An economic blockade was imposed on Germany. Germany would pay Allied governments reparations for the loss of civilians and property. The German army would be limited to 100,000 men. Germany would not be allowed to rebuild its air force or navy. Parts of Germany would be occupied by Allied security forces for 15 years. On June the 28th, suffering intense hardship from the blockade, Germany signed the Treaty of Versailles. After 5 years and the deaths of nearly 15 million soldiers and civilians, the Great War was formally over. Despite the provisions of the peace, some say because the terms were so harsh, it would take Germany less than 20 years to rearm and go to war again. Not a complete parallel, obviously, but some similarities. The lingering effects of another war. North Korea has placed its army on combat alert because of what it calls provocation moves of the United States and its South Korean puppets. Every year about this time, the U.S. and South Korea hold joint military exercises. Every year, the North Koreans, who are still technically at war with the South, go on alert to show their disapproval. We'll be back in a moment.
How good is new Lipton chicken broccoli rice and sauce? Chopped carrots, crispy broccoli, long grain rice, savory chicken flavor. With a delicately seasoned taste and deep simmered sauce that could only come from Lipton. It's that good. Try new Lipton chicken broccoli rice and sauce.
How to bake a cake that's 94% fat-free without your family knowing the difference. Introducing Duncan Hines Delights. It serves up a cake 94% fat-free and still 100% delicious. Let it bake up mouth-watering and moist. Don't give away the secret just yet. You'll know Delights is 94% fat-free, but all they'll know is it's 100% delicious.
How to bake your moist, delicious best.
New Delights from Duncan Hines.
Now, a taste as fresh and light as morning itself. New Farm Rich Light, with 40% less fat and calories, and no cholesterol. Farm Rich Light non-dairy breakfast creamer. A cool, delicious taste of early morning freshness. It's just right, just light on cereal and fruit. New Farm Rich Light, less fat and calories, and no cholesterol.
Hi, interested in that Ford Taurus?
Yeah, I'm just looking.
But if you buy right now, you'll save big and still get room for 6, an airbag, and a powerful V6 engine.
A V6 with the price of gas these days?
Actually, a 6-cylinder Taurus gets better gas mileage than a 4-cylinder Honda Accord and costs less.
Costs less?
Plus, you could save hundreds more with factory-to-dealer incentives.
More car for less money. Now that's what I want to hear.
Your tri-state quality Ford dealer.
See your Ford dealer and see for yourself.
There is a new oil slick in the Persian Gulf. Environmental officials say there was so much damage to the oil facilities in Kuwait, they have no idea where the latest slick is coming from, but it appears to be the biggest one yet. And the Pentagon showed pictures today of what all those oil fires mean. Here's a reconnaissance photograph showing relatively clear skies over Kuwait City last Friday. Now look at this. The city nearly obscured by smoke the next day. The wind shifted, and more oil wells had been sabotaged. Well, the burning oil wells have simply intensified the debate over who is going to pay for war damage. UN Resolution 674 reminds Iraq that it is liable for any loss, any damage or injury in Kuwait. One thing is clear, the job of rebuilding will be enormously expensive, and a lot of American companies are hoping to get a share. Here's ABC's Bob Jamieson.
Inside the headquarters of America's biggest construction and engineering firms, planning for Kuwait's reconstruction has been going on for months. Executives at firms like Bechtel refuse to talk about those plans. They do not want to be seen profiting from a war in which Americans are dying, but profit they will. Kuwait's government in exile says it could cost $40 billion to restore not only the country's basic infrastructure, but its sophisticated technology and those things which made for a comfortable lifestyle.
The Iraqis came to occupy the country with a determined policy of dismantling it totally, systematically, looting it.
Of particular concern are the fires burning in Kuwait's oil fields. Officials do not know how long it will take or how much it will cost to put them out. But reconstruction plans are based on the belief they will have to rebuild the entire industry.
Are you operating under a belief that you will confront the worst case?
Yes, we are.
Kuwaiti economist Fawzi al-Sultan established a reconstruction task force in August. From the third floor of this building, around the corner from the White House, Kuwaiti officials will sign nearly 200 contracts for reconstruction during just the first 3 months after the war. The Army Corps of Engineers will get $46 million to oversee restoration of basic services like water and sewers. AT&T and Motorola will provide emergency communications. Caterpillar has sold diesel generators that will provide electricity. General Motors will sell vehicles. And oil field equipment has been purchased and is stored in this Houston warehouse.
The reconstruction will not be exclusively the business of the United States and the other countries which are doing the fighting. Kuwaitis say business will also go to firms from Germany and Japan.
There's a very strong commitment that we will try and deal as much as we can where we can find equipment with our coalition partners.
But one thing is certain. Once the war ends, American politicians will be lobbying hard to make sure very little business goes elsewhere. Bob Jamieson, ABC News, New York.
There is other news today. Here is some of it. The so-called Keating 5 in the Senate are about to become the Keating 1. The Senate Ethics Committee has been looking into charges that 5 senators used their influence to help Charles Keating, a central figure in the savings and loan scandal. ABC's Cokie Roberts reports tonight that the committee will vote tomorrow to recommend possible Senate action against only one senator, Alan Cranston of California. That action could range from a simple censure to expulsion. In broad economic news, more signs of the weak economy. Orders for durable goods, such things as cars or refrigerators designed to last 3 years or more, fell 0.7% last month. When orders to the factories go down, it is a good bet that layoffs follow. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial lost more than 23 points to close at 2864, and the trading was moderate. The man who served as this network's first anchor has died. John Charles Daly did the news on ABC for 7 years in the 1950s. He was also known to millions as the host of the game show, What's My Line? He could do both things in those days, a job he held for nearly 18 years. John Daly was 77. We'll be back in just a moment.
There are running shoes and racing shoes. And now, for America's #1 sport, now comes the shopping shoe.
The new Easy Spirit shopping shoe with the famous Easy Spirit suspension system. Now your card may wear out, but your feet can go on forever.
At Footprints in Newington.
New Ore-Ida twice-baked potatoes can make any meal twice as exciting.
They're twice as crisp and creamy as ordinary baked potatoes, and you can make them twice as fast. They even make leftovers twice as appealing. When you serve delicious new Ore-Ida twice-baked potatoes, your family will be twice as impressed. So you'll probably want to serve them twice a week.
Well, I don't see how they can make glasses in 1 hour. It takes 2 weeks to make glasses.
That was Ed Hermes' opinion before accepting LensCrafters' Doubters Challenge. Now, listen.
I'm very pleased with these LensCrafter glasses. I was amazed that I was able to get my glasses in less than an hour, and I thought it was a very complicated prescription. My skepticism with the LensCrafter service has absolutely disappeared.
Let LensCrafters open your eyes with custom-crafted eyeglasses in about an hour at these locations.
Just before we leave, we have Forrest Sawyer on the line again from Kuwait City Live. Forrest, a question about the Allied bombing campaign. How did people manage to live through that, and how extensive was the damage that it did?
Well, I saw a good deal of damage along the road as I came in, Peter. Cluster bombs had gutted the road. We had to be very careful because there were craters that we came across. People here said that it became just a part of their lives, and as a matter of fact, to some of the Kuwaitis, they considered it music to their ears. As some of them said, they could endure that knowing that it was leading to freedom.
The other question is, of course, ever since August, we've had very little contact with the Kuwaitis, except occasionally with the resistance. How meager were people's lives, do they tell you?
Well, the people that I saw seemed not to have suffered too much in terms of food and water. I was struck by the people who were very keen to show me some of the wounds that they had suffered that had been inflicted by Iraqis. One man showed me his arm, and there was a mark that had been burnt in. He said that they were trying to write Saddam's name into his arm. Others showed me where their fingernails had been pulled out. And all of them talked about friends that they had lost throughout the occupation.
Does everybody have a story about the occupation?
Everyone that I've talked to so far has a story, and none of the stories are very happy. I think that the happiness begins at about this point, Peter.
When you showed up today, some hours ago, were people surprised to see you?
They surely were. As a matter of fact, we drove in through this dark road. It was just a group of us, and we had passed the last Saudi checkpoint a number of kilometers back, and we kept pushing forward and forward and forward, and then arrived in the dead center of town, not at all sure what we were going to find. A little light was up in an apartment building, and then we began to talk to them, and as soon as they heard that we were speaking English with an American accent, they began leaping up and down and saying that at last the things that they had been waiting for 7 months had finally arrived. We went upstairs. Each of them in this deserted building had their little apartment, 6 families in all. All of them wanted to show us their apartment. All of them wanted us to sit down and share some tea and hear what the outside world was like.
Okay, Forrest, thank you very much for a very long day for you. Look forward to hearing from you tomorrow when we can see what Kuwait City looks like extensively in daylight. There will, of course, be more, including Forrest Sawyer. Later this evening on Nightline, we'll have a Gulf War update every hour on the hour. But it has been another very effective day for the Allied forces, and Kuwait City has been liberated. The Iraqis have, when they could, run. That's our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.